Hello. It's about 20 to 7 this morning. I'm on what I would call, optimistically I might add, my morning run. And I basically go uphill and I run as much as I can until I stop. And then I have a little breather, which is what I'm doing now. And then, if I'm in a good mood, I might run some more. The end goal is to be able to run around the whole thing, but I don't think we're gonna be doing that for a while at least. But no, what we're on about now, what I'm thinking about now, is today's itinerary, I suppose you'd call it. So we've got a job over in the sink drains overflowing when the washing machine's on, and also I think there's something wrong with an outside tap. But that shouldn't be too bad. We can just unwind it and wind a new one on, and then we're over then from there, once we've looked at everything and taken notes for a quotation to alter any waste pipe work I deem fit. I'm just looking at the sunrise, it's bloody beautiful. Once I do that, then we're over to Tring, which isn't too far away obviously. That's why I've sort of planned them accordingly so that I'm in the area. We're going over there then to what are we doing? We're piping up the radiators that I put on the wall the other day, and I was going to edit that together into one seamless video. Well, I wouldn't say seamless, but I'll edit the whole thing together. But basically the radiators are on the wall and we've just got to pipe them up. There's only two there. One of them was damaged, so it's gone back, so we can't do that one till the new one arrives, and that's going to take 2 weeks because it's the if you've seen on my Insta feed, it was the one that was the painted one. It was painted a custom colour and it looked like the guys had played football with it in the packing office, so that's going to take a while to arrive. But we can pipe up the other two, get those in and working for re-inhibit the system, fill it up, blah, blah, blah. It's only a combi, so it's not too bad. And it's a chance to try out the new Aquavac today, the Karcher. Suck all that water out of the pipes. I think that'll be a fun little gig. And then, so we're there most of the day, and then after that we've got to go and get some sewer rods, because we've got a block sewer line across the other side of town, which I had a look at yesterday on my day off, I might add. I had most of the day off and then had a little call, and I thought, I'll go on then. Cheeky block toilet, what will that take? 30 minutes? No. I go there, I plunger away, I open the back door, and like the back driveway is just covered in shit, so it's the whole thing. So lesson learned, there are no cheeky easy jobs. I've got that to do in the evening, but then I've also got to meet another client at 6 in the evening to advise on how we could possibly heat the kitchen in the new extension. And also we've got to investigate while we're there. The pressure discharge pipe seems to be firing off on something, they said. I don't know what appliance they've got, whether they've got an unvented or just a normal boiler. I guess I'll find out when I'm there. If it's a fault inside the boiler, we're going to have to get our valued colleague out. I'll just give him his number and say to him it's a whatever it is, and go from there. And I think that's it for today. I think that's all we've got to do. Oh, and I've also got to now I've got something else to do. I've got to call the client about this Save the World shower room job. I got called him this morning because I sent him the preliminary estimate, and I need this amount of money transferring before I'm going to even order anything, because I'm sick to death of being ripped off. And he's saying he can't open the invoice or whatever, so we'll take him at his word and just call him and see what the issue is, if he's been having one. You know, maybe he hasn't got Adobe Flash Player, I don't know. So we've got to investigate that. I've got to call another client because the check they gave me is no good. This is all just real admin stuff now. Let me think. What else have I actually got to do today? No, I think that's it. So that's a little bit of a rundown, so it's not just random clips. And I guess I'll see you on the job. I've got to get home. It's probably 7 and this run was only supposed to take me 20 minutes, but I spent 5 minutes talking to you guys, so we'll get there. Okay, so this sink job, again, it's another one where it's a secret location, and you know, there's a lot of you know, they're not going to appreciate me poking about with a video camera. So I got a snap of this, and I'll probably just have another picture of after and explain why I did what I did. But as you can see, the dishwasher or the washing machine or whatever it is spigoted just straight onto the trap there. So when it discharges, all it's got to do is just basically come up, and they're saying it's just coming straight up and filling the sink up with the wastewater rather than going away, which is well, it's indicative of a blockage, but it's a bad design overall, because you know, there shouldn't be a situation in which the sink could fill up. And this is in like their sort of their office kitchen, if you want, their company kitchen, which is nicer than my kitchen as well, which is it's just sort of funny really. It's got a ceramic sink in there, beautiful worktop. I suspect I know who put that kitchen in, and he did a very nice kitchen. So, yeah, so but really the plumbing isn't up to snuff, because again the sink's filling up with dishwasher waste, and we don't want that. So I'll probably pipe that up into its own washing machine trap, and once I open up that pipework, I'll probably get the drain snake in and just sort of, you know, stick the whisk in there and pull out anything that might be in there. I imagine there'll be a lot of coffee granules and cooking fat and things like that sort of compact together. But the main challenge on that job is going to be switching the water off, as it's got one of those big square-ended things you need the key for. And like, I stuck the spanner on it. I've got a pretty big spanner, and there's a pretty big manhole, so I managed to get in there with it. But like, I couldn't move it with a foot-long spanner and a crowbar on that, levering it over. I couldn't get it to move. So whether I get a proper stopcock key and able to move it that way, I'm going to cross my fingers on. So that's that job, and I'll probably take some after pictures from my own records and narrate them. We're back here finally, and I'm going to be getting this piped up today. Our clipping solution for coming across the wall here, though it is only a short distance, we're going to be using Talon 15mm clips in chrome, as chosen by the client. And yes. As it turns out, watching this is a little bit like watching paint dry. So I'll have to do a little bit of voicing over. I'm unsure at this stage whether I'll be doing this sort of narration or whether I'll be doing text-based stuff. So we've got a little bit of both in this video. Now, I'm not usually very talkative when I work anyway, despite what you may see on social media. And I've got rather a lot of calls while I was doing this job, so all of my internal resources were either speaking to people or considering the pipe work to be done on this particular radiator. I wanted to invest a significant amount of time in piping this up, purely because the monetary value of this particular item is quite significant, and so a certain amount of care was required in piping it up. It's in the client's entrance right by the front door, so
anybody who visits the property, this is the first thing they're going to see. And I want them to ask, oh, that's a lovely radiator. Who put that in for you? And then she'll be only too pleased to say that it was me. So while this is perhaps a little bit slow pace for doing, every radiator, I judge the amount of effort I'm going to put in against the amount of value I can deliver to the client on a case-by-case basis. I'm not interested in going as fast as I can and getting out the door, because that just has no value to me. I want to leave the job knowing that I've done it in the most efficient way possible, and if that means taking time to perform a swept bend with an offset on and then matching that bend and the angles perfectly on the other pipe going into the other side of the radiator to make sure that they're as ornate as possible, then that's what I'll do. If this was a bog standard radiator, I might not have taken as long to do it, purely because the pipe work very often is underneath the floor, or I might have even used just elbows and just come up with 2 pipes coming along, an elbow and 2 shorter pieces with an offset on. However, again, there's a time and a place for that, and you have to make the judgment on when it is justified and when it's not. It's not just a race to the bottom of the barrel. Another thing that I went over with the client was just the positioning and what clip she wanted and all the rest of it, and it served me well on this job, I think, to have been previously and put the radiators on the wall, so that then they've had a chance to see them where they're going to be, and if they wanted it moved, if they wanted any alterations, it could be done, and it's not a case of them coming home and finding the entire thing piped up and, oh, we've got to drain the system to do it again. I think there was a certain amount of value, although it was quite accidental, in turning up and hanging these and then coming back later to repipe, and it might be something I try and do a little bit more of as I plan my jobs. Now, for this piece of pipe work in particular, what I end up doing is I think I made about 3 different pieces for the valve on the near side to come into the existing pipe work which I'd capped off, so I could just sort of learn and suss out the bend and get it how I wanted it to look, and then the other 2 were just discarded once I found one that was right and all the lengths were right and the proportions were what I wanted. But I was able to reuse the other 2 pieces upstairs anyway, where I moved the centres of the pipes to correct them where they were first fixed incorrectly due to me receiving the incorrect measurement for the pipe centres in the first place. Although what I should have done in hindsight, what my mistake was with that really, is taking the manufacturer's literature as gospel, and so often it's not, and I've seen before that it's not, and yet I still continue to listen and believe, in the manufacturer's measurements that they give you being absolutely set in stone, and they're just not. So if I was confronted with this situation again, I'd have simply left the pipes capped off underneath the floor and just say to the client, we're not bringing anything through unless the radiators are on site, made up, and on the wall preferably, because otherwise you're just, with these sorts of things, you're just on a hiding to nothing. Maybe if we were first fixing a house and it was all Stelrad radiators going in there, or we could bring the pipes up at the centre of where the radiator is going to go, just a couple of pipes close together, and then just run them along the wall either side. As long as the client's okay with that, you can do that. But to try and get a designer radiator, 2 verticals coming up, I think is a little bit foolish, and I ended up losing a lot of time here because of it. Well, not a lot, but enough. I probably lost more time speaking on the phone, as you're going to see, than I did with that particular issue. So once the shorter piece is made, all of the bends are pretty much dialed in. I've got that where I want it, put it in place, and then I'm able to make the second piece much more quickly, simply because I'll just do the exact same sequence again with the exact same measurements and leaving the exact amount in between, and I can use the marks that I've made on the bender to reproduce the exact same piece, except obviously it's longer because it's got to go over to the far side. And we do it that way round. I say we, it's only me. I do it that way round so that I'm not wasting all this tube, which is then adding time and cost onto the job. If I've got to keep going to the van and getting more pieces of copper tube out, it's just, again, it's a hiding to nothing. And it's a lot more efficient cost-wise to just do the short piece of pipe, and then, you know, do the long piece as a simpler piece. Now, the only other thing to really talk about is the whole phone thing. I'm between Bluetooth headsets at the moment, just simply because they don't have a very long life being attached to me. They tend to break because you know, I get falls and bumps and scrapes, and anything that's strapped to me is perhaps more liable to be damaged than I am. My last one, it took a fall and it basically broke in half while it was attached to my head, and I've sort of held off on that. I am tempted to get a more expensive one, like a set of earbuds or something like that. The only thing then is spending more money. It's much more of a risk having something more expensive attached to you. But I'm hoping the additional expense will be, you know, seen in something that will stay attached to my ear a lot, you know, more permanently, let's say, and something that will have a warranty and all the rest of it, and also better call quality, because I don't like lifting the phone to my head to talk. It stops the workflow. It's stressful, and it's just, you know, it's just not the way. It's using up far too much of my you know, my internal, you know, resources, let's say, to operate it in that fashion, as it would be to just press a button and speak normally as if the person's in the room with me. And, you know, you could say, oh, it's not good to talk and work, and I've never had a problem with it. I've never had a problem with being up a ladder and speaking to people. I don't think it's any different than listening to music. Obviously, music is passive and a conversation is active. It's a backwards and forwards exchange, but there's no reason why you can't listen to what somebody's saying to you and not a piece of music. If you're capable of listening to music at work, you're capable of taking part in a conversation at work. You know, it's not like you're going to be asked, you know, you asked a question on who wants to be a millionaire. You know, you just have to answer questions to the best of your ability. It's not an interrogation, but for some reason when you pick the phone up physically, it just feels like that, and it just wrecks with my sense of calm. But there we go. Yeah, these clips here, the two on the right, I line up so that they're above each other. that's just simply for neatness. They're too wide apart to actually snap together. They're about 30 mil apart, center to center, and that's just a little bit too wide, but they're narrow enough where it wasn't, you know, oh, the pipes are spaced out like a couple of fingers and it looks odd. The pipe work on the right, the two pieces coming out, I originally did those some months ago. It was actually so long ago that I thought somebody else had already been in here and put the radiators in, and you know, I just wasn't fast enough getting back to them or whatever, but it wasn't. But when I did those, it was with the intention of running two pipes close together, although I had no idea what I would be installing. And I know you can't really see it in this shot. The drain off is on the far right there. It's just on a T. I decided to sort of put it in that corner because originally it was the radiator that was there, the drain off was on the far side. Just again to keep it out of the way. When you walk into the doorway, you can't see the drain off that's just round that little corner in the wall there. All you can see are just these two pipes coming along, and you know, the radiator itself, which draws the eye. And you know, again, it's just why I did it that way. And then I decided to stick another clip in there, just a little bit further along on the left. You know, I could have got away without using it, but you know, I've got a pack of 10 of these things for this job, and while I'm not going to go crazy and have one every 6 inches, I want to just make it look more better, for lack of a more sophisticated vocabulary this evening, let's say. The second clip is put directly underneath one of the supports for the radiator, so it's having some sort of vertical line to it that looks good. But anyway, I'll pipe down now because I can't remember. I think something does happen, or I say something or whatever.
Hello. James Sharkey speaking. How may I help you? Right. Really vexing me, that is, that smoke alarm. Hello. James Sharkey speaking.
Hello, lovely.
Hi, how are we doing?
We're doing all right, love.
Good, good.
No problems, don't panic, we've got no problems.
No worries.
All it is, we were having a tidy up and we found an insulated blue mug. Is it yours?
What colour is it?
It's a blue and with a black lid.
Blue with a black lid.
And it had some coffee in it.
Oh, if it had coffee in it, it wouldn't be mine.
It would be yours?
No. No, it might be David's, I suppose, if he was working on your doors. But no, definitely not mine. My tea mug's black.
No, this is a blue with a black lid.
Yeah, no, it's not mine then. I'll give David a text and see if he's lost one. No worries. I'll give David a text to see if he's lost one, and if not, I guess you better stick it in your lost property box. Do you know? Okay. How's the bathroom been treating you? Is everything all right?
Yes, and we're all done now.
Are you? Good, good.
Yeah, we've just got the tiling to be done tomorrow in the conservatory, and then we're all finished. We've just got to decorate then.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet you're pleased it's all done.
Shower's gorgeous. We're really happy.
Good, good. I bet you're pleased it's all done.
Yeah, it'd be nice, you know, and we can take our time now getting the decorating done, and then the house will be finished. It'd be lovely.
Absolutely. And then you can enjoy it.
We're very fortunate. We have. We've been really fortunate with all the work we've had done, so we're very pleased.
Good, good.
Oh, well, love.
No, I'm glad about that. I'm glad about that.
And thank you for all your hard work.
No problem. It's all part of the service, and like I say, if you know anybody else that needs any work doing, you feel free to pass my name on.
Yeah, we will, my love. If anybody says, do I know a plumber, I should say I know a very good one.
Absolutely. If you could, that'd be great. And then that's the circle of life. Then I'll get more work and
Yeah.
keep on keeping on.
I recommend you any time, my love.
Brilliant.
So you're getting on all right, are you?
Yeah, I'm fitting up some designer radiators today over in Tring. And designer radiators, like vertical ones. I've been fitting them over in Tring, and
Yourself?
I'll try to. You take care, have a good day, and enjoy everything when it's done.
Yeah, will do. At the moment we've got half the conservatory in the house, half of it in the back garden. So it'd be nice to reclaim the lounge again.
Yeah, take your own lounge back. Have a sit
So we're
down.
having fun.
Good, good.
Okay, my lovely. Well, you take care.
Will do.
Yeah, look after yourself.
I'll try.
Bye now, my love.
I am. See you later. Bye.
Bye.
And that is one radiator completed. Okay, second one. A little bit of a speed run this evening, guys, because we will get through it. And of course, the tool I need is right there. Stopping the iPad from falling over.
It's always nice to hear back from an existing client, and you know, to hear that they're happy with the work and everything's going well. It adds a sense of continuity, I suppose. That and the hands-free actually worked on that particular instance, so that call was a much more pleasant experience. And you know, it's nice that they called me about my mug, which wasn't actually my mug. I've left a number of things around all sorts of people's houses at this point, and it's something that I'm quite well known for. That's my party trick, is seemingly to leave things behind. But ironically enough, that mug wasn't mine, because I certainly don't drink coffee. No way. For God's sake, it's weird being interrupted by yourself. Nobody cares, you know. Shut up. Get on with it. What was I saying? Yeah, ironically enough, that coffee mug certainly wasn't mine, because I don't drink bloody coffee. But it's nice that they called me to let me know, because, you know, once I left my Hoover in, where was it? I think it was Newton Longville, and I didn't find that thing for 2 weeks because they didn't let me know it was there, and I couldn't remember the last place I had it, although I've got ways round that now. Not naturally organised, so I've had to learn how to organise myself. And so doing it manually and going through and checking that everything's on your van, you can be a lot more thorough than somebody who can actually remember where they put something, or at least I like to think I can. I still drop the ball occasionally, but that's mostly when I'm rushing. If I actually, you know, do things properly, I'm pretty much got a 100% hit rate with not leaving things behind now. But it took a little while to get there. And yeah, not really a lot else to say. These offset pieces were from downstairs, so they're going in there now. Oh, full disclosure, actually, I did have a little bit of problems when I filled this back up, which is why we won't be getting through the full day's itinerary. And what it was this is actually this one I'm working on now. It had a little bit of a weep under the floor, the very slight weep, but I went through my standard procedure, filled up the system, put the inhibitor in, filled it up, and also I cleaned out the filter in the garage as an F1 filter, and so that was a nightmare. That took at least half an hour to bloody get it to stop leaking and all the rest of it after I'd put it back together. And yeah, did the heat test, and I always leave the boards up and check all my fittings, and we had just the tiniest little drip. It's, you know, I could have blinked and missed it, but again, it's the principle of the thing. You know, it doesn't matter what time it is, it doesn't matter how much of a rush you're in, you know, you can't be like, oh, it's only dripping once every 10 minutes. It can't, you know, that'll be all right. It'll seal itself up. No. It comes out, the piece of pipework was cut out, and then I literally made another one, which was, it was a little bit funny. That piece was a leftover piece from before, and then I had to make another one exactly like it after I cut the first one out. And I tell you, it's the most overly complicated way to terminate a radiator, but at this point it was like 6 o'clock, and so I wanted to sort of get done. You know, it was at that stage in the day where you're tired and everything, like my phone and my iPad ran out of battery, and it was just like, oh, I want to get on and get done. And by the time I filled up the system for the second time, dealt with all the airlocks and everything else, it was a bit late. You know, it's 3:45, and you know the old saying, if you fill up after 3, you'll be late for your tea, you know. So obviously I wouldn't be searching around for this thing all the time. Anyway, rant over. You know, just kill it with them negative vibes, man. That's what President Snow said. Right. You know, I quite enjoy listening to, you know, the postmodern 9-inch nails and all that work, because, you know, every day is exactly the same. It's you know, it's a joke to me. That song, everyone's like, oh, it's too depressing, it's too real. To me, it's like, oh, imagine if every day was the same. Imagine if every day I just did this exact radiator every day. Imagine that. Imagine working a job where you do the same thing every day. You know, I simply can't. I simply can't. I try, but I simply can't. I don't know why I cut that off of there when there's really another piece of pipe. But job. Yeah, I love it. That's the thing about these little cigarette length pieces of pipe that tend to multiply. If you put water on them, they'll multiply. Heat mat's in the way now. Premature heat mat deployment. Put that in your pipe, it's smoking. Now I bet the smoke alarm's going to go off again.
Okay, that is that. So obviously we'll do some finishing touches in that, but she's in. We did have to play Pipe Dream a little bit under the foot, and now we've just got to shut off all the pins and stuff and fill her up.